on, let's do this. Okay, hello everybody. I hope you're all well, safe, and really just taking care of yourselves during this difficult time. A very warm welcome to the very first part of UNASA webinar 2020, the Human Rights Conference. And in this video, we'll be discussing the topic of online learning. And so this interview will be spearheaded by myself, Kofi-Anan Mkumla, as well as my partner, Zandile Tabata. Hey! Okay, so just as a quick introduction and overview as to what you can expect, for this video and for this interview, our main objective here is to raise awareness about the difficulties online learning has, posed for students, and also the threats that it has posed to the academic future of numerous students. So we'll be exercising our platform by discussing various experiences, student experiences, particularly those of the underprivileged. And so to aid us with that, we got a very special guest, Xola, Mr. Xola Njengele. And some of you might know him as the esteemed chairperson of the Academic Affairs Council for Stellenbosch University. Hello.
So I think his mic might be.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Now you are.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. As Kofi-Anan has introduced me, my name is Xola. I'm the chair of the Academic Affairs Council, and yeah, that's me.
All right. So Zandile will just be, kind of giving you guys a quick bio of our guest speaker for today.
Mr. Xola Njengele is the chairperson of the Academic Affairs Council of Stellenbosch University. He is also serving as an executive member of the Student Representative Council. He is also completing his postgraduate studies in sustainable development. Thank you for joining us, Xola, today, and we'll really, really appreciate the information you're going to share with us today. So I'd like to...
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you. I'd like to hand over to Kofi, who will start with the interview.
Okay, so just to kind of start with context, so we all know that, the new wave of learning has been online learning. We've kind of moved to that platform. And of course, it has proven to be exclusionary for many, many students, because if it's not an issue of a student not having the device, then it's an issue of not having the data. And yes, of course, various institutions, those who have started with online learning have kind of tried to, how can I put it, supplement this need. But we just want to hear from you, what have been the students' kind of reviews and the experience of it? Like, how have they experienced this implementation thus far, if they have communicated any grievances to you?
Okay, so I can't say as per such of communicating grievances to us. However, whenever we engage with students on online learning, so just to give you some info about the Academic Affairs Council, it is comprised of the chairs and vice chairs of all the faculties here at the university. So we kind of have access to every faculty and all their students. So whenever we engage, especially on social media platforms, because that's where students engage with us often, I think the one thing that has come across in terms of feedback from students is that they're very overwhelmed. They're very overwhelmed with the work as well as the workload as well. I think this is our 5th week of online learning, and it does come across as if some, even many, are not easily getting used to this type of learning. I think often we've been receiving communications of, if it's not assignments, it's a test due. If it's not this due, the other thing is due. So it's like every day or all the time we have something to do. And yeah, that's one thing that has been common among students, is that the workload is just beyond what has been or what they were used to before.
I just wanted to ask, do you perhaps, did the university perhaps communicate with the Academic Affairs Council as your role in the university before implementing online learning as to how they would implement it? Or were you also on the receiving end of information as like the rest of the students who found out through the email and just had to start?
Oh no, fortunately, and I think this has been one of the greatest opportunities that myself as well as my counselors had to be at the forefront of the transition from what we used to online learning. So I personally have been involved from the get-go, literally from the get-go. I remember the day the announcement went out of no more test week, we are gonna stop everything, it's recessed. The following day, from that day, I've been attending meetings, being part of strategizing as to how are we gonna do this. So there's always been a student voice throughout this process. Even now there's a student voice, because I mean, just because some or majority of the issues have subsided and things are starting to work out smoothly, doesn't mean that we are not working. We even this week we have meetings, we still have engagements as to how is Sunlearn doing, how can we better this, information about data provision and all of those things. So there's been a student voice from the get-go, and even many of my colleagues on the AAC have been very influential within their faculties. So big ups to every student who has been involved in this transition, because it really wasn't an easy one, considering the fact that you had to make decisions, and these are kind of like lasting decisions, you know. And things are, you cannot take them lightly most of the time, because no one has ever been in this situation, but you also want to get the best out of it. So you have to do your read ups. You have to consider, what has this one done? What has that one done? What is the best in our context, you know? So yeah.
So Ola, I just want to ask, you've mentioned, quite a few, like the role that you guys have played in terms of, making decisions, and that you guys have quite a degree of influence in that regard. So I'm just curious, what is the role of the Academic Affairs Council exactly, for those people who may not know, what the structure does and how it kind of factors into the larger, scope of the university?
Okay, so basically, as I've told you, the council is comprised of all the chairs and vice chairs of the, what do you call this? Of the faculty student committees, and I chair that council, of course, and then I also get to sit on the SRC as an ex officio member, as well as, of course, an executive committee member. But beyond that, the sole and main mandate of the Academic Affairs Council is to promote the academic interests of the students here at the university. And that's literally us, simply put. And I think considering the fact that we have, or I lead a council that has access to basically all students here at the university, it's quite easy. There are interfaculty relations as well, instead of us functioning in our silos as faculties, because I think there's more to university than just getting your degree and focusing on your own faculty, you know. And I think beyond promoting academic interests of students, we try and kind of like link up the common denominators between faculties. What are the things that are common between you guys? What are the things common between you guys? And trying to like have a holistic approach towards academics instead of just go do your work, go study and get this degree. So yeah, we try and go beyond academics, but of course, all the time, before we even think of that, we need to ensure that our base is solidified so that we have ground to stand on and a playing field whereby we can operate and have a success in other things that we think are beneficial within promoting academic success.
Xola, being fortunate enough to be a member of the AAC as well as the SRC, in your experience and in your opinion, do you think that the university has given students sufficient support during this transition phase to online learning?
Okay, so I think it should be fair to say, as a start off, as a disclaimer, that all of our opinions are like our opinions based on where you are, based on what access, what type of access you have to certain things that will further progress your online learning. So if you are in a certain situation, you may think that everything from the university is okay, I'm doing okay. But then if you're in another situation, you'd be like, oh my God, the university is not doing enough for me. But I think of course, I have to be decisive now as a leader. What do I think as a person who's been involved from the get-go? I think considering what has been done, definitely the university has done quite well. I think they have done quite well, and that's really kudos to them for doing that. I think especially, we can go back to even the smallest decision of allowing students to stay on campus. For me personally, I was quite shook. I thought that I'd have to be up in arms trying to ensure that at least students can stay behind. But the fact that it came from them, I think especially with that, it really eased us as student leaders in terms of always having to go into combat and trying to ensure that students get the best out of everything. The fact that they allowed that to happen and other universities, of course, sent their students home was really a great start into effective cooperation between students and the university staff. More can be done. I think always in all situations, more can be done. But I think with the fact that we are improving on everything that we have done so far as well. So even though there were 1,500 laptops available for students, it was not a thing of we finished those 1,500. Okay, if you applying late, you can't do it anymore. It doesn't work like that. We still allowed students to continue applying, even if those 1,500 laptops were finished. We were trying to resource and gain more to ensure that our students are on the right path with the academic success, as well as data provision, more data for June. I think the university is trying their best, and I think as student leaders, we definitely have been pushing the right buttons. And yeah, I think it's going well, considering what we have and what we are going through and our country's context. But of course, once we start engaging on the sole and basic topic of online learning, now that's something totally different, because already we can be like, online learning is just flawed in every sense of the word. But then again, considering what has been happening, or what we are trying to push as a university, I think we are succeeding.
Okay, so I just want to quickly find out from you, because you did mention that some of the students have been, trying to get a hold of, well, have been, contacting you guys and communicating with you guys via social media. And obviously the university has also sent out numerous emails. They've sent out numerous surveys as well, trying to get in touch with the students. And from your knowledge, if you do perhaps, have kind of intel on this, have students been doing their part as well, those who can, to kind of, communicate and give the university feedback about what it is that they do need? And also the people who are maybe not able to give feedback as speedily as the others, kind of how has that been in terms of the university being trying to assess that, okay, cool, we are really, getting in touch with the students who perhaps need us the most?
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, definitely, that has been one thing that we have been engaging on, especially in the beginning, as to, okay, now we are all sitting around these tables, we are all having all these meetings, all these decisions are being made, but are we going to get the necessary engagement from our students? Because especially in this time, it's different when everything's on campus and you can go somewhere, but when we are in this context and this part is doing, these people are doing their part, unfortunately, or well, based on the context, this part, or well, the students in this case, have to do something as well. So we have to meet each other midway, and I think considering the engagement that has been happening and the feedback that we've been getting from students, or well, just engagement from students has been really well. I think especially with whenever communication, especially let's take data for instance. Within the first day, I think we got around about 10,000 messages and opt-ins from students. So I think it's a positive reflection of what we're trying to achieve here. It shows that students are really engaging with the information that they are receiving. And I know through email, students have been urged to ensure that they always look at or check their student email, check their SMSs, and even if it's nothing's coming through, send through those emails. And students have been actually sending through emails, SMSs, and being like, yo, I haven't been getting this. Yo, what can I do to help myself out with in this particular situation? So definitely we've been, the university has been getting emails and communication from students regarding everything. And I think that's really, really great. And it's across all kinds of students, if I can put it like that. It's not just a particular type of student who has access to internet or whatever. It's every and all the students, and especially the ones that we would like feedback from. It's also them as well. One thing, though, that's a bit worrisome for me, I don't think, though, students are engaging with their class representatives enough. And this is now regards to module-specific queries, academic-specific things that are bothering them, I think too often we want to send information to lecturers and be like, I don't get this, that, and the other. But considering the fact that the type of teaching had to be changed, the type of assessing had to be changed, type of learning had to be changed. Not bombarding, but all 35 of us sending the lecturer the same email won't be as effective and as opposed to utilizing the systems that are there already, and that being the class representative systems. And I think if there's one thing I can continue to promote is that I think students should utilize that communication platform more effectively, because lecturers are quite responsive, especially towards the class representatives, considering that they will just summarize the feedback from students and be like, yo, dude, this is what has been said about this type of assessment. It's working quite well, but just modify this part and that part. And I think based on how the most lecturers have been responding. They are quite responsive, and things change quite instantly because we all on our keyboards. Our offices are our laptops and whatever other material we use. So I think beyond everything else, for module specific stuff, I think students should utilize the class rep system often than they are, especially in this instance, because now you can't just be like, oh no, I'm not gonna tell Kofi, my class rep, I'll just go down and speak to the lecturer myself. We can't do that anymore because there's 10 of us, 20 or hundreds of us in a class, and we would all be like, let me send an email, and that's not going to work. So I think if there's anything that should be promoted more is that class rep and using them effectively.
Ola, you mentioned that, and we all know that the way of assessing has changed. And I personally know that there's been some worry about how the academic exclusion process will now take place at Stellenbosch University, and I'm aware that there has been some changes. So I'd like you to please ask to clarify this, and how has the change taken place?
So I think you are referring to the HEMIS policy. Okay, cool. So in the past, students had to meet or students had to get certain amount of HEMIS credits or HEMIS points, if I can put it like that, to ensure that they are automatically readmitted back to the university. And if not, they got below than what they were supposed to get, they then would be subjected to the readmission process, meaning that they have to apply, and a whole committee would sit and review their application and approve it or deny it. This year, however, the readmission policy kind of like has been altered to ensure that we in no way exclude any students because of their circumstances, because that's what it would look like if we were to continue with the readmission even in this time. You know, I mean, online learning is in the South African context, and if you're being all honest, quite exclusive in its nature. But to combat this and to ensure that no student is really, really left behind, all students enrolled in 2020 will not be subjected to readmission. So what that means is you don't have to apply for readmission even if you don't pass well enough. You can literally, let me make an example, fail all your modules, and 2020 can be a worse year academically, and you can still come back and redo within that specific program, BAc, continue with your BAc degree instead of you having to change to another one or having to go through any application procedures. However, this deal is of course only for this year, and it doesn't apply to people who have been excluded. So those who still want to come back to uni for 2021. So they will have to now still apply for readmission to come back to the university. However, everyone who is a student now, doesn't matter if you faced HEMIS issues in the past or whatever, if you're a student now and you enrolled in 2020 at Stellenbosch University, you won't be subjected to any readmission. Irrespective of what you go through academically, you will be admitted here at the university 2021.
So just to quickly clarify, but of course, if somebody were to deregister for whatever reason, then this does not apply to them. Okay. Also, I just wanted to quickly ask.
No. Can you just repeat that?
So if somebody were to choose to deregister now for whatever reason, like if circumstances actually were to compel them to deregister, so this kind of new rule or this concession with the YEMAs would not then be applicable to them because it's only applicable to registered students?
It depends. I mean, if you're deregistering to come back next year, you then communicate that with your what are these people? The administrators, the ones usually at admin A. You would just communicate that I'm deregistering on the condition that next year I'm coming back, because those are also the deals that exist. I think if we can reflect on previous emails, we were also encouraged that if you'd like to deregister and just start over next year, that's also possible. It's also okay. So it's not an exclusive thing, because also that is a deal in itself, that you can make a deal that I want to deregister, but I'm coming back next year. That's also okay.
Okay, cool. Okay, so what I also wanted to ask now is, I mean, it's no secret that somebody might have the devices and, you know, internet connectivity, but then they may not be in an environment that is conducive for learning. So how much of that specifically has been taken into account, especially, you know, yeah, just how much of that has been taken into account, you know, throughout the discussions in terms of assessments and just the scheduling of the assessments, especially?
Okay, so with I'm gonna take it twofold. To the one would be just engaging on spaces that are not conducive for learning, and then two, scheduling and what has been taken into account when deciding on that. So first of all, with the feedback that we have been receiving, I think number two, up there would be the spaces that are not conducive, especially those who are at home. I think many students have raised with us that it's just not the same at home. Some have been engaging with us saying that some of the family members are not kind of like respecting the fact that they're trying to get an education here, trying to get a degree, you know. And of course, our tips would be engage, try to ensure that they actually understand that you don't have a choice in the circumstances. And of course, we cannot ignore the fact that there are regulations set in place by the government, the lockdown rules, the levels. So it's not also just a decision taken lightly that students can't come back. It's just that the laws that are in place aren't allowing students to come back as well. So that's why there's been quite a strict approach towards students coming back, and not even in instances whereby you're not in a conducive space. It is definitely a hard thing to say no to someone when they're asking, Ola, what can I do? And I'm like, there's honestly at the moment nothing that can be done, considering the fact that the option was there to stay. You know, there's also those things to consider. But I mean, yeah, there are many reasons why people went back home anyway. But beyond that, with scheduling of assessments, exams, and tests, a lot has been taken into account. I'm telling you, certain religious practices, times, that being the duration of the assessment, how long will it be? Some people cannot write during the day on a Saturday or in the evening on a Friday. All of those things have been taken into account. The fact that network can be an issue, all those things have been taken into account. And I think one thing that has been encouraged so far is that students should also communicate with their lecturers, because often people who may be facing these things, you can be one or two in a class, but then you can, in that instance, fall through the cracks if you don't communicate and let lecturers know as to, yo, listen, this is the situation that I'm in. please make arrangements, or let's just make an arrangement between us. And it is okay, because that's what we've been encouraging the whole time. That's what communication lecturers have received as well, that we have to engage with our students and find out from them as well, are there any hurdles that they may face to ensure that they complete something on time, or if they fulfill whatever duty, whatever assignment, or whatever academic obligation is assigned to them. So definitely, when I've been part of the engagements on setting up test times and all of those things, a lot of things have been taken into account. It wasn't a thing of we're just setting it up and it's just going to be the way it is. No, a lot of things are taken into account. And I remember I even asked one of my SRC colleagues, Luigi, who heads up the special needs portfolio, to tag along with me and engage on that, because that policy, I don't know the special needs policy as much as she does. So there were a lot of things that she brought into light as to certain documents have to be Word document to ensure that certain students who are visually impaired can access it properly, can utilize their apps, or the apps that they can that can help them succeed in whatever task they have to do. So all of those things have been taken into account, and I think we've really done well. I think for now the main issue may be clashes, and of course that would have to be communicated with lecturers as soon as possible, as to, I have a clash for this particular exam. What can we do with it, or what can we do about it? So yeah.
Seeing that we're almost at the end of our interview, I just wanted to ask you, Xola, what does the AAC and the SRC envision the equal access to education? And what are some words of encouragement you can give to students during this time, just to let them know that the situation is changing, but they are capable as well?
Very philosophical question, the first one. But if anything, if I were to engage on it, I think it would be universal access. Access, ensuring that doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter whether your physical or mental abilities that you possess, or the ones that you don't possess, the current situation that you're in with whatever shouldn't restrict you from ensuring that you have the most basic things to ensure that you can tackle online learning. Because I think, especially with this time, we're also facing a pandemic. So I can't just slap in a laptop and data and some support here and there and think that it's going to be okay. No, we're not under normal circumstances. We weren't just told to go home and go do online learning because this is just the way we're going to do it here at the university. No, we are facing a pandemic, which also is kind of like life-threatening to a large extent. And I mean, we don't know what people are facing at home, who tested what the results are, who's facing what, and constant worry from some people as to, oh my God, my parents or my family members are part of essential workers. I worry about them every day, So I think with those things in mind, you don't also want to get hassles as to trying to ensure that you log on your Sunlearn. You don't have a laptop. Your data's just not, you're just not getting data support. You're just not getting psychological support. And I think, considering the fact that those things are there and more is piling up on, and I think access to the most basic things for online learning is a good start. I can't necessarily say what I envision, but I think what if there's anything I should envision is that all of these negative things that I've just mentioned now shouldn't be a hinder or shouldn't be an additional stress, and a separate support shouldn't be something that hinders you from succeeding or accessing online learning. We're not even talking about success now. We're just talking about just accessing online learning. I think as long as the basics are there, we are hitting somewhere. Yeah. And then with tips, if there's a tip that I can give you, honestly, breathe. Just close your eyes and breathe in and out and think about what you have to do. What are the tasks that I have to do for today? Leave out the rest of the week, leave out the rest of the month. What are the tasks that are going to help me get closer to achieving my goal for today? Take it day by day instead of trying to mash up and think that this thing is going to work by just you stressing out and not knowing where exactly you want to go. I think too often we want to make it work once and it's not going to work. Trust me. I think it's important to just breathe in, breathe out, get into your setting and understand, okay, this is what I'm in, but what can I do to get myself out right now? And you take it day by day and you set up routines as well. And it's not going to work for the first few times, but at least get that one thing right for that first time, that second one for that second time, that third one, and it's going to accumulate and it's going to start getting better. You also want to start getting better, so you have to ensure that you push yourself most of the time. Not over the edge, just enough. And also take a break. We all deserve it. Ensure that you really take a meaningful break and not just, and don't take technological breaks. Like don't go on WhatsApp and on Instagram. That's not a break. That's not a break. Go outside in your yard or just have a nap or meditate. Yeah, there's a lot of things that help us cope. Find out what makes you cope under this time.
Thank you very much. Seeing that we've reached the end of our interview, we'd like to thank you, Xola, on behalf of UNAS, the Stellenbosch and Amnesty International. I'd also like to thank Kofi, Michael, and I'd like to reiterate Xola's words that it's important for us to just breathe and just to understand that we're not the only people going through this. There are other students around going through the same problems, and they might be different, but at the end of the day, this is the new reality that we find ourselves in. And instead of being stuck behind and complaining and it's important to voice our opinions and our struggles, but also to find a way to adapt into new online learning. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope this session was full of information that will benefit you. Thank you very much.